Hi guys, my name is Joshy Beast. In this video, I will cover all of the basics of how to play this game, how to manage your villages, where to find resources, if there's a bug in the game, how do I fix it, and just general knowledge pieces of the game. So if you're looking for something specific in this tutorial, there are timestamps below and you'll be able to find what you're looking for. I will go over tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 progression, along with how to use the buildings and what are the best methods to maximize your resource management. So let's start off with the basics. You've just created your character and dropped into the map, and you're overwhelmed. What do I do? The first thing you need to understand is the objective of the game. There are 7 villages in the map, and you need to liberate each one of them. To liberate the villages, you need to complete quests. By completing quests, you will receive Renown. Once you acquire enough Renown for a village, you can then construct a bell tower. Once there is a bell tower in that town, the king will become hostile to you and he will send his forces to reclaim the town. He will send a small army to this village periodically to try to retake it. You have to continually defend these towns until you have all of the villages liberated. So to start the game off, you will need to speak to the village elder who will give you a quest to build a personal shack. This will open up the availability to construct buildings. You cannot build near a village. You will have to find a spot away from the village to start building. And my advice to you would be to start building your village next to a road. You will need to eventually be fast traveling between villages, and the fast travel posts can be created next to roads. So start your village near a road. Press B to open up the build menu, and then you will see a list of all the buildings that you can create. Right now, you will only be able to construct the personal shack, so press F to select it, and then left click in an open spot. If the outline of the building is white, that means you can build in that location. If it is red, that means you cannot build it. Once you place down your building, you will have to gather all of the resources required to build it. Once you have the resources, you can go up to the white log icon and deposit the items there. Once you have all the resources, you will have to manually start building the building. Go up to the white icon and left click, and you will place down the required building material. Once you place your personal shack, the first thing you're going to want to do is create an axe. This is a weapon, but also a tool to chop down trees. So to build an axe, you press I, and in the bottom right, you will see a quick craft menu. At the very bottom, you will see the materials that are required to create this craft. Once you have those materials, you can hold left click and you will create your axe. Now go back into your inventory and put it into your weapon slot. Sticks and stones can be found on the ground in the area, and that is what you need to create your axe. Right off the bat, when you start the game, you need to know that there is a winter time which will stop you from harvesting plants. If you have a farm, this will not kill your plants, but it will stop their growth. So everything gets put on pause. Before winter, you want to make sure you stock up with all of your plants, because once winter hits, you're kind of stuck. So if you don't have berries, mushrooms, and food for your villagers to eat, they will not do any work, and the winter time will be absolutely miserable for you. Here are some of the hotkeys that you can use to access the menus. U will allow you to access the skill tree. I will bring you straight to your inventory page. P will bring you to your player's attributes. O will open up your army page if you have an active army. J will open up your journal, which is also your quest log. M will open up your map, and N will open up your village menu where you can access your buildings, population, storage information, and delivery information. And B will be your build menu. Now, if you go into the game settings, you can change the game difficulty. If you're finding that raids are too difficult, or they are too frequent, or, you're having issues with bandits coming from all over the place, what you can do is actually turn this all down so your situation is a little easier. To upgrade your statistics and the statistics of your villagers, you will have to read books. You can get books from loot and from enemies that you kill, and you can also buy books from bookkeepers in various villages. Herondine and Padstow both have booksellers. Once you have a book, you can right click to use it, and then you can click N to go to your village menu, go to your population, select a character, and then select attributes, and then you can click on the book icon by their skill. This will slowly upgrade them over time. You can actually see how long it'll take to upgrade. Now, to upgrade yourself, you can press P to bring up your attributes menu, and then you can upgrade your statistic. Your villagers will also upgrade their skills over time. They will gain experience for completing tasks, so if they are assigned to, for example, farming, the more farming they do, the more skill they'll receive, and that attribute will upgrade over time. Soon I will outline combat, resources, and where to find certain things around the map, but the first thing you're going to want to know is your enemy. Your base will be rated and towns will be rated, so where you select your base is very important. You want to place your base between a village and the enemy. This is only the north portion of the map, but this is what you're gonna have to deal with at the start of the game. Here are the villages that you can liberate. Here are the bandit camps. This is where bandit raids will come from. They will try to attack your base. This is the brigand headquarters. Once you liberate a town, the king's armies will come from this headquarters and attack specific towns. So you want to be placing your base in a central area so that you can quickly make your way to these bases. Remember, bandits and brigands are not friends. They will fight each other. The brigands belong to the king, and bandits are sort of like scavengers around the map. Bandits will be patrolling around their encampments, and if you go in and destroy their encampments, you'll erase them from the map forever. Inside of these encampments, you can find loot, and to completely destroy it, you can either destroy all of the enemies in the camp or tear down the flag. Now that you know what brigands and bandits are, you're gonna need soldiers to fight them. So how do you get soldiers? Well, next to your gold stash in the top left corner, you will see your Renown score. In order to get Renown, you can kill enemies and complete tasks. There are other ways of getting Renown, but I'll cover that later on in the video. Once you have enough Renown, you go up to a villager in a village and you can try to recruit them. And I would highly recommend avoiding recruiting beggars, as beggars will cause debuffs on your army. So find a villager that you can afford and please avoid the beggars. Once you recruited your villager, he will become a companion and he will follow you around. You can order him to gather materials or to fight or just follow you around. He can also be used to carry stuff for you. If you want him to go back to your village, press O to bring up your army menu and then click the X in the right corner and he will be removed as a companion and he will become a worker. He will now live at your base. Please note that you have to build him a shelter or he will become unhappy and he won't do his work. You need to make sure that he has a house, so you'll have to build him one. To check if your villagers have a house, what you can do is press N to open your village menu, click on buildings, and then scroll down to the name of your house. You can see how many villagers are assigned to this house. If you left click on it, it'll bring up the residents of that specific house and you can select who actually lives at which house. So you can unassign, make them homeless, or reassign and make them residents. You can get renown from completing quests, killing bandits and brigands, and by handing in those special coins to elders at villages. So you can go to any elder and hand in the old coin, or you can hand in the wolf fang. Honestly, the wolf fang is not the best way to get renown because they give so little, but if you're desperate, you can do that. A lot of people don't know this, but if you put down an animal trophy, you will get renown. This is sort of a fun way to decorate your base and buildings. What I normally do is have trophies topped up as something that I construct from my workshops or workbench so that I always have trophies available, and when I need renown, I can just throw one on the ground. Bellwright has a fantastic fast traveling system. You can construct signposts along roads which can be used to fast travel instantly across the map. If you're ever going on some sort of expedition or exploration, I would keep the materials to build these signposts with you at all times. That way you can quickly throw down a signpost, head back to base and sort of expand your fast travel capabilities. If there is an enemy nearby, you will not be able to fast travel. As you can see, there's a red X on one of my signposts. I cannot go to that fast travel sign until the area is cleared. Also, this is something I didn't realize until I beat the game, but you can actually fast travel from your town hall. As you progress through the game, you will unlock a town hall, which can be used to perform more research and also to fast travel, so you can travel from your signpost right into your village hall. Health and stamina is very simple. However, if you haven't played a game like this before, you might need a little bit of help. So you have a maximum threshold of health and stamina. However, if you consume food, it will either increase your stamina, health, or both. The bar will be increased and your health and stamina will slowly regenerate over time. Now, you can use the medicinal salve, which will instantly regenerate 50 health points. You also have bandages that will stop bleeds. If you have a healer in your army, you can give bandages and salves to those healers and they will heal your troopers in battle. Finally, while you're sprinting, you will lose a lot of stamina, but if you're sprinting on a road, you will actually lose less stamina than if you're sprinting on normal ground. Take a look at the stamina bar and you can see the difference between running on a road and running off the road. Combat is pretty simple, but it can take some time to master. Basically, enemies can attack from 4 directions: up, down, left, right. Down would be a thrust, up would be an overhead swing, and then you have a right and left swing. You can block these attacks by hitting the block button and pointing in the direction that the enemy is swinging. What I have found that you kind of have to swing your mouse in the direction that you want to block, as opposed to simply just moving your mouse in that direction. It's very touchy and sometimes it doesn't work. You don't lose any stamina while attacking, however, you don't actually regenerate stamina while you are swinging your sword. You can perform a parry by blocking them at the very last second and then quickly swinging your sword. If you have a shield, you will not have to point in any direction, but you can simply just hold your shield up and guard the attacks. One combat strategy that I find very important is to go and take out the archers. What I find is that archers do massive damage and can often hit headshots on either you or your companions. So what I would do is rush around the infantry, allow your soldiers to take the one-on-one fights, but then you go and take out the archers so that the archers don't take out your soldiers. Also, if you hold your attack button, you will do a heavy attack. It's a slower swing, but it deals a lot of damage. Now bear with me because I'm about to improvise the army management piece. If you want to turn your villagers from workers into guards or soldiers, I can show you how to do this. Press N to bring up your village menu and then go to the village that you would like to draw people from. You can individually set your workers to guards by selecting them from your population list and then clicking guard. They will then patrol the area, and what this does is it actually lowers the chance of your base getting raided. The more guards you have, the less likely your base will get raided. Now, if you want to keep a group of villagers as workers, you can deselect them as companion reservist, and then when you go call to arms and click mobilize, those people will be excluded from your army. So you would do this in cases where maybe you have, like, for example, a blacksmith, a farmer, an innkeeper. These are all people that I might want in my base to keep working while I'm going fighting. So to prevent those individuals from joining your army, see, I click on call to arms. Here are 38 reservists right here. I deselect them from my reservist pool. And now when I go to call of arms, there you go, 32. They're all removed from my reservist menu. So now I'm going to show you how to control your army. So I'll click call to arms. I'll get my entire village to join my army. If you don't have the staging ground, in order to get your troops to stock up for battle, you're going to have to go up to your either warehouses, wherever you're keeping your weapons. You'll have to click on that and make your soldiers manually grab weapons. Same thing for food. If your soldiers become hungry, they will stop following you. So what you want to do is go to the place where you're storing your food. In my case, this is where my food is. I'm going to click on that. and all the soldiers that don't have food will have to go grab the food. So for example, I have a staging ground, so I can just select the staging ground and all of my villagers will go and automatically stock up. But if you're watching this video, you likely don't have this. Now, if you press O, you can bring up the companions menu. This will show you everyone that's in your party. If you click on it, you can determine how much food each of your companions will carry with them. So for example, if you need to travel a great distance, you're likely gonna want them to have more food on them, or at least until you can get to a berry bush or mushrooms. So in that case, if you're traveling a great distance, I would recommend doing maybe 4 or 5. But just remember, every single soldier is going to pick up 4 food. So that's going to add up very quickly and drain your supplies. Now this durability symbol means what durability the weapons will be that they're grabbing. So if you pick 0, it is likely that they will actually go in and grab a weapon that might be broken. So what I normally do is set this to, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 so that when they go and grab a weapon, I know that their weapon will last the entire battle. If you have anyone injured in your group, if they fall in battle, they will die. People like John and Percy here, they don't have any injuries. So if they die in battle, they'll respawn. They'll come back up. Everything in their inventory will be safe and they'll come back to the base. But if they have that injured symbol and then they die in a fight, they will be gone. Their inventory is wiped. They're dead. They don't exist anymore. I would say the biggest challenge of managing your army is keeping everyone fed because they require a lot of food. Now, there are a couple stances that your soldiers can have. There is charging and holding. If you click holding, they will hold the position that they're in. However, they will attack if anyone comes near them. This is good for if you're fighting a large force and you don't want individuals to rush off and get killed. Otherwise, if you click charging, as soon as they detect an enemy, they will run off and fight that enemy. That can be very handy while you're traveling around, just because wolves and boars might attack your soldiers, and you're gonna want your group to fight those wolves or boars so that they don't get picked off. If you press Q, your army will follow you. So I'm gonna automatically walk here, but on my map, I am now the point of interest that they will follow. You can see this will move around the map. Speaking of which, on the map, I'm gonna stop this, make them go there. It doesn't show very well, but if you right click on the map, your army will move to that position. So if there's a case where maybe there's a fight going on in another town and you're just really busy, you can't manage everything properly, you can right click and you will send your army to that next location. Unfortunately, oh, there it moved. There you go. It takes a little while, but eventually this symbol will show up, so you can make them move around the map by right clicking. So to disband your army, you can click O, and then you can click this button right here. It will delete your thing. Otherwise, you can go through this menu. That's stupid. I would just click O and then click this. Yeah, and now they're back to work. Now, you will have a lot of jobs around the base, so you're probably wondering how you manage your population to do specific tasks. Well, Bellwright has a very elaborate management system, and you can select individuals to prioritize specific tasks, so I'll show you how to do it. Press N to bring up your village menu and then click on population. You will see a list of everyone that lives at your village. So here you will see a chart of all of your villagers and their job priorities. An easy way to find your villagers' stats is to hover over their name in the list, and on your left you will see their overall statistics. And then based on what their statistics are, you can prioritize which jobs they perform. By default, everything will be set to 5, making everything an equal priority. However, for example, Amelia has a high farming skill and a high cooking skill. I might want to prioritize her tasks to be farming and cooking over all of the other tasks. So what I can do is select the task and then select the priority, number 1 being the highest priority and 0 being the lowest. So in this case, once there are no more farming tasks that can be done, she will move on to number 2, and then number 3 and 4, and so on. Priorities can also be set to any building in the village. If you have a specific building that you want your villagers to be managing before others, you can go up to your building, click manage, and then select the priority that you want to give it. So for example, you might want to make smithing your most important priority, so you'd switch that to 1, and if you want it to be very low priority, you will switch that to 9. Also, active crafts that show up in your queue are based on a top-down priority. So whatever's on top will be constructed before the bottom ones, and you can use the arrow buttons on your right to switch their priority position. Now, you're probably wondering, what is top up versus 1 off? If I 1 off berry or mushroom to 100, my gatherers will go and grab 100 of that item, and then they will no longer continue to gather that item. If I select top up for either berry or mushroom, my villagers will continue to grab that item until there is 100 inside of the inventory. They may go off and do another task in the meantime, but eventually they will come back to it and they will top the berry and mushroom back off. So this is a good strategy to keep your inventories full, and this can be applied to any building. You can top up on wood or rock, literally any item you can think of. So you want to learn how to make an outpost or a second base away from your main base, so I can show you how to do this. The first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you build a fast travel signpost next to where you want to build your base. That way you can easily bring all of the building materials to your location. For your new base, you're going to need houses that your villagers can sleep at. You will need a stockpile so that they can deliver all of their resources and food to it. You will need a workbench so they can repair all of their equipment. And then depending on what your outpost is, you'll need your lumber camps or mining camps. But most importantly, you will need a foraging camp so that you can order your troops to replenish their food supply. Remember, villagers that are hungry will not work until they have found some food. And finally, you can build any specialty building that you'd like to in this camp. For example, I'm harvesting hardwood over in this area, so I needed that lumber camp. You have built new buildings, but you will need to assign those buildings to the new base. Bring up your village menu by pressing N, click on buildings, find the building that you just built. I would advise renaming your buildings to, for example, maybe Copper Mine Stockpile or Copper Mine Foraging Hut, just so you can keep track of them. So once you've changed the name, again, you don't have to do that, you will see a bell icon on the far right side of your screen. If you click on this, you can go down to New Outpost, and this is where you can create your own outposts, and then you can name it. For example, this will be a wood outpost where I gather hardwood, so I'm going to call it Wood Outpost. I click OK, and now I can assign buildings to this outpost. Here's my wood outpost page, and there's the building that I have assigned. So you're gonna want to do this to all of the new buildings that you built for this outpost. In order to get villagers to go to this new outpost, in the middle you'll see a switch drop-down menu. Click on that and then select the outpost that you'd like to assign them to. In this case, I've selected the wood outpost. Now my villager will be walking over to that outpost and they will live there. And if you want them to go back home, you follow the same principle. You click on switch and then send them back to your main base. Finally, this is one of the most important aspects of this game. You can assign automatic deliveries to each of your outposts. This is a way to transfer all of your materials, food, weapons, armor, anything you'd like to between bases automatically. That way you don't have to manually go and deliver everything. So for example, things like food, building materials, these can be delivered on a daily basis, weekly, or even just topped up. So my villagers are going to destroy all of these axes that they're using to chop down trees. I'm going to want to automatically assign new axes to be delivered into the stockpile of that new base. How you do this is you go to the Deliveries tab, and then you select the item that you'd like to resupply. In this case, I'm going to select a rugged axe. And now the origin is where this axe will be coming from. In this case, I want the axe to come from my main base because that's where I have all of my axes stored. And the request will be a top up of 2 so that this new base always has 2 axes on hand. And just to prevent my villagers from having to go and stop and grab food, you can also top up on berries, mushrooms, and any food that you might want them to take. Now, last but not least, you are going to have broken equipment in your outposts. Your villagers will wear down their axes, break pickaxes, things like that. So what you're going to want to do is select your main base and have those broken items automatically delivered to your main base because they're going to take up a lot of space in your stockpile. Here is which villagers you will find in each village. This is not 100% accurate as I was just walking around each village for maybe like 10 minutes looking for who I could find. So if I'm missing anything, I apologize, but this is what I can confirm. Now it's time to find where all the resources are located. First of all, wheat can be found in the center of the map. This is the only place you can get it. The compound is heavily guarded by brigands, so what I would advise doing is bringing a couple of soldiers with you, having them go and collect the wheat, and then run away as quickly as possible. Among the wheat, you will collect grains, which can be used to grow wheat back at your farm, so you really don't need that much wheat. Also, once you're able to clear out the brigands from this area, you can just come in and collect as much wheat as you possibly need. The wheat will grow back over time, but the brigands will not. Once you kill the brigands, they are gone and they will not return. Speaking of not returning, any mineral that you may gather around the map is gone. It will not replenish over time. Vegetation, things like small trees, moss, stuff like that, that will return. However, minerals, rocks, ore, iron, even tin, none of that will return over time. Now for copper ore, it can be located in the north and eastern area of the map. I'll circle it for you. And next we have tin ore. This is a more central and western mineral that you can find in these areas. Next we have iron ore. This is a late game mineral and you don't need it until tier 2, tier 3, but it can be found in the southern areas. Peat can be found in the swamp that is north of Black Ridge Pool. This area is very dangerous, so you're going to want to bring a lot of soldiers when you go, and that is used to create iron ingots. Cotton is also a late game item, and it can be found in the southwestern area. Hardwood can be found sort of all over the place, but there's a large collection of it in this forest just in the southeast of the map. Mud is literally everywhere. And finally, moss. Moss can be found where peat is in the swamp area. Believe it or not, wolves are extremely valuable. In the end game, you will need to be crafting leather to create the higher tier armors and weapons. And unfortunately, leather is made from wolves' pelts. So, I found a huge number of wolves that spawn in the forest of Padstow and also the forest north of that. Now it's the same for boars. In the end game, you are going to need a lot of fur from these boars to create your armor sets. So, what I found is they spawn east of Padstow and in the forest of Padstow where the wolves are. This is probably the easiest place to farm these animals, although you can find them pretty much anywhere on the map. When your villagers hunt boar and wolves, they are very likely to get injured unless they have very heavy armor and high tier weapons. If an injured villager goes out to hunt a wolf or boar and then gets injured once more, they will die. You can't have an injured villager get hurt, otherwise they will completely die and not respawn. Deer can be found almost anywhere, but again, you need a lot of them to upgrade and create armor sets for your soldiers. You can kill a deer in one shot by firing slightly above its head. Otherwise, if you hit it in the body, it's going to take multiple hits and it's going to run away and likely escape. Now I will show you every single building in tier 1 and what it does. First, we have the personal shack. You have a storage container where you can put your own items in and your villagers will not interact with this. And you have a bed where you can skip the night. During the summer days, you can go to bed at 8 p.m. and during the winter, you can sleep at 6 p.m. Next, we have the research desk. This is where you can unlock various tools, equipment, and buildings. You initiate the research, however, a villager is the one that actually has to perform it. If you press U, you can see the unlock tree and you can see the various researches that are available. Also, you can access the research table from the map. So if you would like to start another research, you can simply go into your map, zoom in, find the research icon, select it, and then select your next research. Logging camps are what you use to make your villagers go and collect wood and logs. If your villager has an axe on them, then they will go and do it automatically. If they do not have an axe on their inventory, you can put an axe in the local storage space and your villagers will grab the axe and go to work. Once you build the logging camp, you will have to select either wood or logs to get your villagers to start working. I would highly recommend having everything set to top up so that your workers continue to grab the amount that you select. Foraging camps are used to grab loose resources around your base. This is your best way to automatically acquire flax, berries, mushrooms, sage, riverweed, wood, just anything that you think could be lying on the ground open without requiring them to chop trees down or mine. Please note that you will need an insane amount of every single one of these resources as you play this game. You need thousands of each resource throughout this entire playthrough, so what I would do is have everything topped off to 100 or something, just so that you can continually maintain that supply. I would also set the priority to berries and mushrooms so that your villagers will go and collect food. The simple workbench is where you can craft tier 1 equipment. You can make shovels, swords, carpenter's hammers, hoes, simple axe and pickaxes, as well as use the workbench to repair these items. To make your life very simple, to keep all of these items in your inventory for workers or yourself to use, you can top off all of the most important items. So carpenter hammers, short bows, arrows, simple axe. I would also add the simple pickaxe and animal trophies as well, so that these are always available in your stockpile. Remember, you can access anything from the map, so you can go to your simple workbench and order your workers to go and craft, create, or repair anything you would like. The camp chest, which is something that you don't have for very long before you upgrade it to a stockpile, but I'll explain it anyway. Within the simple chest, you can hold 50 items, which ultimately is not very much, and you are going to eagerly be awaiting the next upgrade, which will be 400 spaces. Within the chest, you can filter out what goes into it. So for example, I'm going to remove the option of every resource going into that except for, let's do crude stone and wood. So the easiest way would be to turn off all of the options, go to crude stone, allow it, and then instead of scrolling down and looking for wood in that big list, I can just search in the search bar, find wood, and then it'll snap right to it, and then I can click and activate it so that wood. So now my villagers will remove everything inside of my simple chest except for stone and wood. Now we can move on to the stockpile. Your villagers will be continually grabbing resources to fill into your stockpile. What I would do is reserve certain stockpiles for certain resources. So in this case, I'm going to make this a wood-only stockpile. I would advise doing, a stone stockpile of wood, herbs, food, weapons, armor, and just kind of separate everything, because your villagers will actually put them into their respective chest as long as you have these filters on. So if I turn everything off except for wood, all of the villagers will take everything out of these boxes and will only put wood in. So again, instead of scrolling through this big list, I can just type wood into the search bar, find wood right there, and then check it. So now all of the villagers will take everything out of the box and they will put wood into it. The Lumberjack spot is where you can take a log and split it into various pieces of wood. This is not something I would do on my own since it takes a very long time. I would have my workers do this for me. Just stick an axe in the local storage spot and then your workers will go and they will start chopping wood. As long as you have it queued in the management page, again, you can top up as much wood as you like. However, what's going to happen is they're going to use the logs from your inventory to do this. So if you want to make sure that you have logs in your inventory, make sure that you have logs selected as topped up on your lumber camp. Mining camps are what you use to get your villagers to acquire crude stone, copper ore, and tin ore within a close radius. As long as there is a pickaxe inside the local storage, your workers will go over there, grab the pickaxe, and start mining. Please note that the radius is not very big for this, so you'll need to build this pretty close to the minerals. The Weaver Loom is where you can create linen, rope, simple cord, thatch, and eventually when you unlock other tiers, there's more that you can upgrade here. And on the Weaver Table is where you can turn materials into clothing. The majority of this stuff is made from plants that you'll have to grow in your farm or pick up off the ground, like flax and hemp and riverweed. Riverweed can be found around rivers and lakes, and oftentimes it's something that is not within distance of your foraging camp, so you'll need to go out and actually grab it yourself, unless you can build a foraging camp near the riverweed. Farms are where you can grow vegetables and herbs. It takes a very long time, almost an entire season, to grow these plants, but once they're done, you get a lot of plants. Everything grows in massive quantities, so in this section to your right, you don't want everything to be 100, you more so want it to be 5, because one seed will produce a whole bunch of a material. Trust me, 100 is overkill and not very realistic. One strategy that I have is that I have a farm for every single plant, vegetable, cotton, wheat, just so that I can have all of those resources available to me. Your farmers won't be able to farm unless they have a hoe, which can be crafted at the simple workbench. The hoe is how they till the ground and prepare it for seeding. First, you use the hoe to till the ground, and then you seed, and then things start to grow. Now, next we have the compost bin where you can create fertilizer, and this to me, I actually don't understand how it works. I think when your farmers add fertilizer to the soil, it causes additional plants to grow, which will give you more, but I can't honestly confirm this because I've never done it myself. I've sort of let the AI manage it themselves. It's something I'm not too interested in because you get so much from farming anyway. Mud is used for a lot of crafts and it is found all over the map. If you create a mud collector in your base and put a shovel in the local storage, you will go and find mud. Now in the video I have told you where you can find peat, and it is in the swamp area, which is a very dangerous area. So what I would advise doing actually is quick traveling over to that area, grabbing the peat yourself, and then coming back to base. You can farm it, however, I find it is so fast just to fast travel, grab the peat, and then go back to base. Peat is used for the blast furnace, which is how you can make iron ingots. The Bloomery is your tier 1 way of making ingots. You can make bronze ingots, copper ingots, and tin ingots. To make a bronze ingot, you need to combine tin ore and copper ore together. This is the outhouse. Anything you put inside of the outhouse will be deleted forever. This is where you can throw all of your leftover armor, anything that's garbage really, you can throw it in here and it will be destroyed by the outhouse. The weapon rack is where you can store all of your tools, weapons, and equipment, and what I like to do is sort each weapon rack by sort of, axes, pickaxes, swords, bows. I like to have everything separate so that I can know exactly what is on each rack. If your village is under attack and you have a companion, you can order him to go to the weapon rack and pick up a weapon. This is very handy in the early stages of the game, specifically tier 1. Now this is how you upgrade to tier 2. The mixing bucket is how you can create cob, which is used for roofs. Sorry, I have a Canadian accent, so I said that a little funny. This is made from straw and water, so you will need to have wheat and a thresher to make the cob. Speaking of a thresher, this is a thresher. This is where you can separate wheat and make straw and grains. Grains can be planted back into your farm, which will grow more wheat, and straw is a building equipment that you will need for the weaver and for cob. Next, we have a smoking rack. This is where you can smoke meat, which will give you significant vitality and stamina boosts. It's much better than eating berries and mushrooms, and is definitely worth using. Next, we have the campfire with cauldron. This is where you can make soups, stews, berry jam, things of that nature. I don't normally use this just because your villagers will go and take the best food first. So this kind of food gets eaten up very quickly and uses a lot of resources. However, you do need soups, jams, and stews for quests. So this is where you're gonna go and finish those quests. Finally, we have the water collector. This will only fill up with water after it rains, so unfortunately you're gonna have to wait for a rainfall in order to get water. Just so you know, water is an ingredient that you need for cob, which is how you can eventually reach tier 2. Tier 2, the first thing you're gonna wanna build is a tier 2 barn. This is a massive upgrade from the stockpile. You can hold up to 1,000 items. However, remember, this will fill up very quickly. So you're going to want to build multiple of them, rename them, and sort them based on the material that you want to gather. Next, we have the food cellar. The food cellar is very difficult to acquire. You actually need to liberate the town Farnworth, which is in the southeast, in order to get an innkeeper. It holds 500 food and it causes the food to spoil very slowly. So it's definitely worth having. The forester is where you can grow saplings. You will need tree seeds and fertilizer, and your workers will go and plant these trees out into a wooded area where you can actually grow new trees so you can continually farm wood. You will need a woodsman to complete this craft. The Lumberjack has an increased radius so that your villagers can go and take down trees from a great distance. Here is where you will unlock the hardwood log, which you will need for the next tier of upgrades. Hardwood logs are birch trees and those twisted trees that you see at the beginning of the game. Hardwood logs can only be cut down by tier 2 axes, so your simple axes are not going to be able to destroy them. You're going to need a rugged axe or a fine axe. Like the lumber camp, the mining camp has an increased range, so you can have more workers mining for you. It also gives you the ability to mine iron ore and granite. Iron ore and granite require level 2 pickaxes, so you will need a rugged pickaxe and higher in order to mine iron and granite. The hunter's camp is a huge upgrade from trappers. You select the hunting radius that your villagers will take, and then you select which animals your villagers can hunt. Crows are very common. They drop feathers and they drop small meat. Deers will drop hide, antlers, and larger meat. Boars will drop boar tusks, fur, and large meat as well. Wolves will drop pelts and wolf fangs. Once you get tier 2, I would recommend specifically hunting deer and boars, as those are what you need to upgrade your tier 2 armors and weapons. Once you reach tier 3, you're going to want to hunt a lot of wolves. The problem is, wolves will kill your villagers and so will boars. So if you want to protect your villagers from dying, I would suggest hunting crows and deers. The tavern is where you can start to create those more complex meals from the cauldron. I wouldn't advise using this as a primary source of food because these recipes require a lot of ingredients and they are often not managed too well by the innkeeper. These are primarily used to complete quests where you need to hand in specific food items like mushroom stew and berry jams. The drying rack is what you use to create rawhide, and rawhide is an ingredient that you use to create leather. And to create leather, you will need to use the tanning rack. On the tanning rack, you can create crude fur, which will take 2 fur, which come from boars, and it will take 1 rawhide and 1 pelt. That is how you create leather. You need a pelt from a wolf and a rawhide from the drying rack. Next, we have the staging ground. This is how you unlock the ability to automatically gather weapons and resources and food for your armies. Once you gather your army, you select the staging ground and all of your units will automatically go gather food and armor and weapons, and they will prepare themselves for battle and return to this location, so it's extremely useful to use. Next, we have the blast furnace. This is where you're going to be able to create iron ingots for the first time. Unfortunately, this requires peat to use the blast furnace, but you can actually go and farm peat pretty easily if you can set up a travel post in the swamp area. This is your next housing upgrade. In tier 2, you can build a house which will now house 3 workers instead of 2. The Weaver Hut is an upgrade from the Weaver Loom, where you can create more advanced crafting materials, and you can also create things like bags and better armor and hats and gloves. The Toolmaker is an upgrade from the Workbench. Now you'll be able to make better tools, better equipment, things like copper nails, shields, helmets, hammers, swords, a rugged axe. This is all of your weapon upgrades. You can also now create strap. Strap is required for building equipment like weapons and armor, and now you can just build the strap from this location. The Foraging Hut is an upgrade from the Foraging Camp. You can harvest at a greater radius, and you can harvest more things like cotton, moss, cranberries. And if your villager has the correct equipment on them, they can even go and get minerals. On the side of the Foraging Hut, there is a drying rack where you can draw berries and mushrooms. These will give you a bigger stat bonus for health and stamina. The last 2-tier building I have to show you is the Tanner's Hut. This is where you can create more advanced leather equipment. When you go into the manage page, everything that you have researched from your tier 2 town hall will show up here. Before I start describing the tier 3 buildings, I just want you to know that they are absolutely massive and take up a ton of space, so you need to make sure that you have a large clearing before you start building these buildings. So this is the big house. It can house 7 settlers at once. Here is the Lumbermill. This is where you can harvest all types of wood. Literally every single type of wood can be constructed here. Just go to whatever management station there is and then select which wood you want to be gathered. Also, the radius is massive, so your workers will go a great distance to go and collect the wood. The blacksmith is where you will create your endgame weapon and armors. You will need to have a smithing tool at the blacksmith in order for him to work. Here you can create tin plate, which is a combination of iron and tin ingots. And you can see I have all of the research completed, and you could build some pretty insane weapons here. Next, we have the Foraging Lodge, and this building allows you to use a lot of workers at once to go and gather things. There are also drying racks along the side where you can dry mushrooms and berries, and the radius is quite large, so they will go quite far from your camp to go and gather these resources. Next, we have the Inn, which is an upgrade from the Tavern. Here you will be able to make more elaborate recipes at the Cauldron. Again, these recipes are great, but it takes so many resources to build them. They're mostly for completing quests rather than actually having this food in your inventory. This also acts as a living quarters for your settlers in place of creating houses, which is very handy. The Warehouse is a massive upgrade from the Stockpile. You can hold 6,500 resources in your stockpile. However, these things take up a lot of space and they're kind of tedious to make as they require a lot of resources. But however, 6,500 ain't too bad. Finally, this is the Windmill. This is where you will create flour from grains. And remember, grains is what you get from harvesting wheat and putting it through a thresher. At the bakery, you can create some pretty elaborate food. Again, the ingredients list is massive and it takes a long time for this to get used up. I find it's best to spam bread as it only takes flour and water to make. Otherwise, it's gonna take forever to build any of these ingredients at the bakery. This is the coal burner. This is how you create charcoal. You can use logs and hardwood logs to create your charcoal and also resin. Charcoal is required at the smelter, which is how you make steel ingots. Here is the apiary. This is where you can collect honey. You select a villager to gather honey on that side. There's nothing really too special about it. Honey is used in the bakery recipes. This is the Armourer. This is where you're going to create all of your advanced armor. You can make heavy plate metal here. As you can see, I have unlocked everything, and there is some pretty intense armor that you can unlock and create here. And once again, you do need a hammer or a smithing tool for your settler to work here. Here is the workshop. This is the replacement for your toolmaker. This is where you're gonna create your weapons, armor, strap, iron nails, shovels, like all of your equipment that you used to make from before. Except now you have more of an extensive list because your tier 3 research will wind up here. The Hunter's Lodge has drying racks all around it, and this is where you can send workers to go and hunt for you. The radius is the same, except you can have a couple extra villagers that will go hunting. This is the Smelter. This is where you are going to put all of your ore and turn them into ingots. If you manage over here, you can select which ingots you want to create. Now, what I have found is that villagers don't actually use this too often, and I found it's faster if I just manually go and create the ingots. But you're going to need to put charcoal in the middle, and then you're going to need to put your ingots on the sides. To create steel, you put iron and charcoal inside. Finally, to level up your villages, there are a lot of buildings that you can construct. However, a lot of them take bronze ingots and other more valuable materials that you might not want to waste. What I advise doing is building a bunch of shrines all around your village. You get 75 renown per shrine, and they cost 15 stone, which honestly is not very much. You can just fill your bags with stone, fast travel beside your town, and then quickly just build the shrines, which is really easy and fast to do. So there are village upgrades. You can get archery ranges, stables. There's a barracks as well, but I found that these didn't actually make much of a difference. And by the time you unlock this, the enemies that are attacking your village are so powerful. The upgrades for the villagers actually doesn't make any difference at all. Well guys, that's it for me. I hope there wasn't anything that I missed, and if I got stuff wrong in here, I'm really sorry. I played this game for over 300 hours, and I absolutely loved it. So if you enjoyed this or found it helpful in any way, you can leave a comment. Also, if you have questions, go ahead and leave a comment as well, and I can help you as best I can. I don't think I'll be making any more Bellwright content, as I kind of just poured out as much as I possibly could into one video, but I hope you enjoy the game, because I certainly did. See you guys in the next one.